um, matriculated in the Master of Science and Organizational Leadership program at Quinnipiac. So I switched from like one course to another where I literally click on this area and I'm teaching, and I click on this one, I'm doing the homework. It's very unusual. I don't like it. Can't wait for it to be over. I got one more year. Yes.
You can tell me when we're official so I can open.
It's done.
Okay, great. So let's open the meeting. Call to order. In attendance, we have member Tom Mabry, member Lauren Sardi, member Alex Hutchinson, town planner Hiram Peck, and ZEO Lena Frazier. First, the minutes from the last meeting. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to take a look at it. And whether you had any comments, concerns, changes. Oh, thank you. And what I sent out, Lena corrected me that it's not approved yet, so the written part approved as amended will be when we approve it. The content did not change. We're all good. Someone can make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
That's it. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. The other piece of business we have is we have to officially approve the expenditure for that wonderful map. So this was approved by Board of Finance, correct? Okay, but we have to also put our approval on it. So we have an invoice from New England Geosystems for the map, a total of $1,050. If anybody wants to look at it, but we just need to have a motion to approve, and we approve it and they get paid.
It's gonna go under one of the line items from planning and zoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't check with it? Out of curiosity, is this ongoing service to us or just a one-time?
This sentence. Oh,
Yeah.
But let's get this approved and you
Sure.
can ask. So we have a motion to approve,
Motion.
I think.
and
Can we
those
just-
in favor, say aye.
Just-
Abstain. Opposed. Okay, approved. Lena, Tom had a question about, do you have ongoing
okay.
relationship with these people?
So the New England Geosystems is the system that we utilize for the, I think we call it the GIS for the, and it's been in use since I've been here in town, so for a while.
Oh.
Yeah, several years now. They have upgraded a lot of we have upgraded a lot of maps with them. And looks like now it has a little bit of more informational stuff that we need.
So we could access it again?
It's available to the public as well.
Okay.
Through the, it's located through the assessors section on the website.
Yeah.
But you can always do the Bethany Map Express is called, and then it brings you to the town of Bethany GIS system.
Yeah, I've been using it
And
myself
you,
to find some land up in Massachusetts for my son. My sister and I are looking, we've been using the GIS for Real helpful.
Okay, so we have that business out of the way. The original agenda, which again, we're gonna modify, since Leslie is not here. But I do want to sort of build off of this. And I've been talking with Hiram and Lena, in terms of how do we start to get something of substance that we can start to focus on as a group. I think we've kind of been through the high level, kind of where we're at. And so, what I'm going to do is sort of open this up, and Hiram, I would like any input or guidance. But I'll put together several areas that I think are worthwhile for us to look at. So I'll kind of give you a highlight of that. And then Hiram, I will ask if you could sort of weigh in. The first item has to do with, in our first or second meeting, I handed out sort of a one-page summary of what are relevant regulations for the town that we might want to look at. And the three that are most obvious are elderly housing district, housing opportunity development district, and attainable housing overlay zone. So I will ask Hiram to kind of provide a somewhat simple explanation as to what each of those are. And whether we should be looking at all of them, one of them. And again, the way I'm looking at this, sitting sort of a dual role as a commission member for planning and zoning and then a member of this committee, is anything we can do to do some heavy lifting for the commission will be helpful. So we get thoughtful and looking at some things and say, yeah, no, we really should be looking at the housing opportunity development district. And here's why. And then start that dialogue with them. If there's agreement that it seems to make sense, then we can keep going a little bit deeper and trying to drive that. But I think the best thing we can do is sort of tee up opportunities with as much background and information for planning and zoning to consider. And then ultimately give them the ball and say, okay, ball's in your court. If you really want to do something, A, B, and C are potential options you might want to consider, and that'll give food for thought and discussion for planning and zoning as whether they want to take action or not. Some of these, I don't know, Hiram, whether some of these would also have to be brought before Board of Selectmen. But since we're a creature of the Board of Selectmen, I do anticipate that from time to time, we're going to report back and say, hey, you know, you created us. Here's what we've been talking about. Here's what we're looking at. And here's what we're sharing in planning and zoning. So I don't see it so much as we're looking for approval or decisions from them. Some of these things ultimately may have to come to Board of Selectmen, but it would be coming through planning and zoning, not through us. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's item number one I had. Second, has to do with the state does provide a resource. So, this individual, Ben Lovejoy, was serving as, I don't know what Stephanie Camps, what's that, is she like Director of Regional Planning or something?
Mhm.
For SCROG. So Ben previously was the Director of Regional Planning for SCROG, which is the South Central Regional Council of Governments entity, and we're part of one of 13 towns that are part of it. So Ben was heading that up. He left to take a position with the state at the Connecticut Housing Department. And he is providing technical assistance to various towns on issues regarding housing. I've had one discussion with him, which was kind of off the record because he technically can only engage with the town when he's directed by either the first selectman or a designated authorized agent of the selectman. And that hadn't happened yet. So he gave me background information, but basically said you got to work through a process to do that. So I'd like to find out more about what he might be able to provide. Maybe include him as a Zoom participant in a future meeting so that he can describe a little bit about what he does. And then we can open it up to discussion about different ways that we think we might be able to utilize that. That relates to the third one, because specifically what I was talking to him about was whether there are resources at the state level to provide us with assistance, support, insight around the vacant state police barracks that are sitting up on Amity Road. And essentially, he kind of gave me a yes and no. But he raised a very interesting question that I don't know the answer to yet. I don't know if any of us knows it, but technically, who owns it? It was state property. It's not clear whether the state still owns it or the state gave it over to the town since it's been abandoned. So do you know?
Yeah, I think it's still state.
You do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and getting an answer from them about the person to talk to is a little bit more difficult. But there's all kinds of issues that go along with that, you know, proximity to the state police and what the condition of the property is and so on. But yeah, I think that those are good things that, you know, we could talk to Ben about getting
Okay.
some assistance on that.
I mean, Hiram, I'm not the first person that has brought this up, and Hiram said there's been past discussions about this. One of the issues that appears to be an issue is the environmental hazards. And I don't know, do you know if that's soil contamination, asbestos contamination, all of the above, or something else?
Probably both.
Okay,
And I think that going in, that we'd have to narrow down just what those issues are. And then find out either from Ben or somebody else, what type of assistance might be available to address those issues before we get seriously into it. And the last thing we want to do is buy that building, whether it's for $1 or not, and then find out we've got $3 million worth of cleanup to do.
correct.
So finding out just how we attack that and maybe get some money for an initial environmental assessment. Before we go too far with that, might be a good thing to do. And there are firms around that do that stuff.
Well, they're not getting too far down the rabbit hole on that. I actually think would be beneficial if the state still owns it and it's not town property. I mean, you're aware of the fact that there's a lot of discussion going on in the legislature about various sort of housing initiatives. I know Lena's been tracking that. But there's definitely a push by the state to get towns to really address housing development, particularly around transit oriented, which is not relevant for us.
Do we have a designated downtown in Bethany?
What's that?
Do we have a designated downtown? Bethany?
No, I mean, that's a different issue. I don't want to go down that.
Well, I mean, some of that assistance that you're talking about is geared towards designated downtown areas, not just.
We're actually trying to go through that discussion with planning and zoning right now.
Oh,
About a village center and exactly how we want to approach that. So the short answer is we don't.
okay.
And if and when that does get decided, then maybe it opens up some doors. But from my perspective, if we get back to the right people, be able to tell the state, hey, you've got a whatever it is, 2 acre, 4 acre lot that's sitting there, that's been abandoned.
3.67.
3.7, okay. That we think would be a really good candidate, because let's face it, if that was barracks for, I don't know how many people, a dozen people or so,
At least, yeah.
it probably at one point had a water system. The septic's probably shot, so I wouldn't even think. But if there's a functional well there. So if the state owns it and we can kind of push it back to them, say, we want to do something, we want to help provide housing options. you own it. And if you own it and it is contaminated, our expectation is the state would come up with the funds to remediate the whole thing. From my perspective on the building itself, I think you would raise it, you wouldn't look to rehab it. Not that that mitigates any of the asbestos problems. But I think it's probably simpler for the appropriate people who do remediation to know, okay, we build an envelope around it, knock the whole damn thing down, let it come down, and then we extract everything.
That's often how they do it.
Yeah. So
So it's the building right next to where the current barracks are, is that right? Is
it
that,
is.
and if this isn't relevant, it's fine, but like, does anyone have sort of a very quick rundown of sort of why there are these two buildings there? And I mean, were they both occupied? And then just, do you know what I'm saying? Or
I
does it
don't
not matter
know
anymore?
that the building that's currently being utilized,
Mhm.
I don't know if it is a barracks anymore.
I don't think it is any longer. It may have been previously. I think that there may have been times when the troopers stayed there and then simply went over to the other building to operate out of there. But getting the history of it would be a good place to start too.
Mhm.
Whoever owns it at the state, it's probably, there's a group at the state that has charge of all state properties, and they can probably give us the history of that, should we decide to look into that.
But my guess is the way it was structured was the abandoned building was the barracks. That's where troopers would stay overnight, late shifts and that sort of thing. The other building was more administrative.
Mhm.
And I don't know how they organized those. But obviously it's actively used. And if it's ground contamination, again, my position would be if it's contaminated in the barracks, it's probably contaminated where the current building is.
Yeah, I mean, that's also, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
valid
they
concern.
maintain their own gas tanks there, don't they? They,
I think they do. There's a lot of old cars and things in the back as well, so there may be some oil and things like that that need to be looked at as well, so
all right.
something we definitely would look into in detail before. we go
So
to-
I don't know if that's a winning hand or a losing hand to play against the state. The state may just say, we got other things to do. But I personally would like to, number one, get clarity on exactly the status, what might be available, and then this is where I think Ben will be very helpful. Who are the right people to talk to in the state? And I guess my pipe dream in all of this would be, if the town can get control and it can be remediated, whether we would have the opportunity to essentially use that as a negotiation chip with a developer to say, land acquisition, we know that's really, really expensive. We're going to give you a very favorable price on being able to develop that. But condition on either everything's deed restricted or half, whatever the the total volume of living units they can put up there. But we can use this in a way to be able to start to create some affordable housing. And do it in a way that works to the benefit of the developer, works to our benefit. So that's sort of my pipe dream. I don't know whether it's achievable or not. But I want to see if we can start the discussion, the exploration. So that's sort of marrying together technical assistance from the state with a very specific opportunity in our town. And then the question I had for you, Hiram, and we can kind of work backwards here because I'll turn it over to you. We have been talking about at some point wanting to bring in developers. And so the question I've thrown to Hiram, I initially thought we've got to kind of have our act together and have a somewhat of a concept before we engage. But I got thinking about it today, saying, well, maybe that's the wrong way to do it. Maybe we should bring in one or two developers and say, it's a blank slate. We haven't really gone down any road, but here's what we want to accomplish. as a developer, what would you want to see? And then have that feed into our discussions, deliberations, etc. So which makes more sense? Do they both make sense? And which one might you?
I think, Alex, it might not be a bad idea to have one or two developers come in and talk or join us online and talk
Yeah,
about what the important things are for them. How big a project has to be for them to be interested in it. You know, for example, if certain developers are only interested in, 100 units or something like that, probably too big for us, no question about that.
Right.
So I would say that we need to find out what those parameters are, how much land is needed, what size of a project would work. What do they need in order to, find it attractive, those kinds of things. And then I think we start to put our list together. And then compare that with property that might be available to us, once we find that out. So I would say talking to them fairly soon would not be a bad idea at all. That there's no commitment on their part. Developers are always willing to talk. They're always full of talking anyway.
okay. Well, that's good. I wasn't sure if they said if you can't give us an idea of an actual project, I don't know if this would be a fruitful conversation.
Yeah, I think so, because it would give us kind of the general parameters. It also gives you a good idea of the sort of the styles of various developers. Some you can tell, well, this person's gonna really make everybody angry. Let's just don't go that way. On the other hand, there are developers that are very good with that, have really good public relations. There's a developer, a young lady over in the middle of state who's been very successful in doing single family affordable housing developments, and she's really got it down. She has the PR stuff down. She goes through with what she, intends and what she proposes. Very dependable. So she might be an excellent person to have talk as well.
Okay.
And I know her, so I can certainly find out, when you're ready, when you want to do that, we could set that up pretty quickly.
So in that video that you sent out that David Fink did, were those her developments up in with the Middletown or Goshen or where was it?
I don't think any of those were, but she's done a lot of them in that area, in that Southington, Plainville, Glastonbury area.
Okay.
Yep.
And in those, in those two videos.
Yep.
I watched them both, and one of those, if I'm not mistaken, one of the ones in Milford was only 12 units. And the developer said, I'd like to work with only 3 units per building because that's a great advantage to me. Because the construction requirements for me are a lot more manageable. So I think the developers speaking to us that aren't, 100 units and up, but have done small projects, that was 12 units in 4 buildings, I think, in Milford. And he specified why he liked that. And the other one, that was in Wallingford, he had 3 buildings. And I forget the total number of units, I didn't memorize it, but he built one, he was smaller sized. His experience was smaller sized, projects. And so he built one building, finished that, built the second, finished that, built the third.
Right.
And 30% of that, of those units were affordable. But he was able to, and it took him 3 years, but that's a small size. So now our contractors that do small, or just those 2 videos.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think all one size fits all developers.
Yeah.
And I get to speak from experience. Our daughter lives out in Seattle. And one of her very good friends out there, he's a developer that started with just doing single family house. Now Seattle, the lots are tiny compared to this. But he moved from that to 2 family dwellings. And now he's moved to 4. And the big limiting factor for him was he didn't have the capital to finance bigger projects. And now he's been somewhat successful. So to your point, there are going to be developers out there that don't have mega dollars. They can't tap into doing a 20, 30, 100 unit project, but they could do 3 or 4 units and that sort of thing. So So I'm gonna kind of lay those out. I don't want to ignore the map. So Hiram, do you think it would be better to dive into any one of these things now or to spend a little bit of time looking through the map?
Well, let me go give you a couple of things that I was thinking about. So regulations you mentioned, and I think those sections of the regs would be something that we should certainly take a look at. We could take a look at, one or two of them at one of these meetings, and I can talk to you a little bit about what the pros and cons are of each of those things. The other thing at some point in time we need to talk about is what type of organization we were gonna recommend or we think we recommend to be set up. And I think Leslie will talk more about that, but I suspect that a private nonprofit organization might be the way to go here. And then select some land parcels that might be available. And when we talk about the projects, as you all know, I mean, the size of the project, as Tom just mentioned, is really important. The density of the project is important. And the design of the project is important as well. And what they look like, I think, is really going to be very, very telling. And as Alex mentioned in the beginning, the legislature was very busy, and last Saturday, they passed that 5002 bill.
They did pass
They
it.
passed it. So the only thing, it's 160 pages, great reading. And I can tell you that right now, don't know if the governor's gonna sign it or not, but we'll find out shortly whether that happens. That's gonna require us to make a number of changes to our current regulations already. So we'll find out once the governor signs it, whether that's gonna go forward or not. So there are a lot of unknowns out there with regard to that. But in the meantime, I think that just sort of settling on the types of things that we just talked about, maybe some parcels are available. Maybe some people own those parcels that we know or we can talk to and say, would you be available or would you be interested in selling this? It's probably gonna be some landowner has the best interest of the town at heart. Or maybe they have a large single-family house on the property and they wouldn't mind developing half of it because they want to downsize at some point in the future themselves. So there's always those kinds of things that can possibly work out. So that's kind of the order that I would recommend that we go in. So taking a look at the map and finding out if we have any questions on that. One thing I was gonna say on this invoice is that we just want to make sure that hopefully they'll do some adjustments if we need to have any adjustments done without charging us a ton of extra money. Whether it's take a partial off or put one on or whatever.
I have a question about that, actually.
Sure.
How come the Regional Water Authority is not marked on here?
Well, that's private land. First of all,
But it's owned by them specifically though, right?
yeah.
But how come that's not? Because so it's just because isn't it exempt? Or we would have to buy it from them? So it just
Yeah.
falls under the same as
It's not buying.
as like
It would
individual.
have to be purchased.
Okay,
Yeah, and the thing with the water authority is typically what their primary concern is. What's the development gonna do to the purity of the water in the watershed? And they are always very, very concerned about that. So it's an extra step that may or may not be able to satisfy when you're talking about any kind of multi-family housing. That's tough to do.
I just feel like
Can
that
you
should
sign
also
a
be,
sheet?
yes,
Sign up.
but I feel like it'd be nice to kind of see that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But that's for another.
Okay, maybe that's something we can talk to Brian about that.
Mhm.
I mean, no big deal. I just feel like it would be like worth that.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, you're actually raising a great point, something I.
Yep.
We should, and I don't know. Does the town have any ongoing dialogue in contact with RWA?
Yes, some of my applications require their approval, so I have a contact.
I'm thinking
with the
more
person.
from rather than the transactional, we have applications. Again, this might be something good for planning and zoning, but to have ongoing dialogue with them to understand their long-range plans.
Mm.
I mean, I've heard various times where RWA is saying, we're carrying a lot of land here, you don't need to be carrying that much land. So have they identified parcels that they're saying?
They do have a plan that was provided to the town. I just have to look through my records where I have it, and I believe the last time didn't end up sharing, but they do have a plan that's specifically with the town of Bethany
Because,
in
again,
relation to the town.
the town, I envision the town being in the land
Mhm.
acquisition
Mhm.
business. But if we've identified parcels or RWA's identified parcels they think are potentially available. If we can be sort of the broker between them and the developer that we sort of identified that we think is compatible
Mhm.
with how we want to approach things, that we may be able to provide, because I don't know what the land, that the value of that kind of land is. And I'm sure RWA is less concerned about maximizing return on the land than they are ensuring security of the water supply.
Yeah, I think that's why I think Lauren's question's an
There
excellent, excellent one. I think if there's any land that and you can check with them and find out if there's any, they're willing to declare excess land.
They do have a specific real estate person.
Is it Ron Walker or something?
Ron actually retired.
Okay,
He moved to another person, but I do have RGB has a real estate person that deals with that sort of transactional with the land. So I would be able to find out who that person is to
okay.
have a point of contact.
Okay,
That's a great question to.
it is.
Yep.
Thank you. 30-second catch up for you, Kim.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Leslie is sick, so we're not
Oh.
able. Yeah, she's got a respiratory thing going
okay.
on. So we weren't able to get into her stuff tonight. We've been going through sort of a list of potential areas that we can dive into, one available housing zones, districts within our regs, specifically elderly housing opportunity development districts, and attainable housing overlay zones. Should we focus on one over another? And again, it's going to sort of overlap with, as we start looking at parcels and availability. Secondly, we talked about is potential for technical assistance from the state. Ben Lovejoy, that used to be with SCROG, is now up at the Connecticut Housing Department.
Oh,
And he's heading up a technical assistance unit, so. And related to that would be my broken record issue of what we're gonna do about the state police barracks up there. And
I mean, I could pull up my pictures from that. I mean, I think
I
it's a good spot.
I
It
wanted
just-
to take a fresh look. I
Yeah.
know it's been looked at, I know it's
Yeah.
been discussed, but the environment today where the state is very hungry about pushing housing and housing development, we got a perfect opportunity. If they own that property,
Yeah,
is to say, okay, put your money where your mouth is.
we probably couldn't put, yeah, I think when we looked at it, we thought we could put maybe 4 units in there.
4 is better than
We have
none.
to do something with an elevator for second floor.
I would say raise the building,
Oh, I mean, that would be the easiest.
raise the
Yeah.
building and then allow it, and Hiram identified it's about 3.7 acres. So we find out, okay, with that sort of density and the water supply and septic
Right.
requirements, can it support 6? And if they can support 6, again.
Yeah.
So trying to marry together what the state wants to get accomplished, if we get the appropriate assistance to find out who we need to be talking to. And, state police barracks there are contaminated and is an environmental hazard. I think it's a perfect opportunity again. Put your money where your mouth is. It's
Remediate.
available land, help us get it cleaned up. We'll bring the developer in, we'll get it going. And you can make it deed restricted by making it a very favorable opportunity for a developer.
Did we find out anything about Greenhaven, I mean, it seems like there's nothing happening there again.
I've heard that
Nothing new.
deal has fallen through.
Yeah.
With the bank.
I mean, the bank's gonna get hungry at some point.
I
It's a lot
talked,
of,
I talked briefly to Bob Wiedemann, who was working for Ion,
Yeah.
last time we talked to them. And he's very anxious to come and talk to us about it,
okay,
the project, so he's one of the people I would recommend we chat with.
So it's another item on my list. I didn't put it on this list, but again, if that has fallen through, we can talk to Bob, right? Bob.
Mhm.
I'd love to be able to start a dialogue with Iron Bank. They've been holding that property now for what, 3 years?
Oh, I bet it's,
At least.
I mean, when they
At least that.
officially.
I bet
bought
it's
it.
longer.
4 years, 5 years now,
Okay,
because it wasn't like right around COVID, 2020,
so, you know,
2021.
I don't know how much money they put into it. But they're,
4 years.
they're losing opportunity, they have the opportunity costs. Whether there's an opportunity for us, again, if we can find the right developer, whether it's Bob or somebody else. To find a way to have a partnership with the bank and showcase, I mean,
Mhm.
they got a $6 million black hole. They could get a tremendous amount of
Right.
goodwill. If they could showcase that as Ion Bank's commitment to housing, and this is what we're doing,
Right.
we're putting our money where our mouth. I think there's an opportunity there for them to look at it and say, we'll make some lemonade out of lemons here. It's,
Well, I mean, would it fall under, I haven't had the time to go through this. The whole bill's 160 pages.
yeah,
But, I mean, does it fall under anything here that we can use?
I don't know.
There are parts of that, Kim, that we're gonna be required to change our own regulations
Yeah.
for as well, so, I don't have it just past Saturday, I haven't finished looking through it yet, but there are definitely parts that we're gonna have to.
I mean, maybe like this governor's priority housing zones. You know, something like that,
Mhm.
if that would help us to,
I haven't been following really closely, but what I've been following, I'm guessing Lamont will not sign it as is.
you don't think you will.
I don't think he will.
That's all that's left, right?
Yeah,
I think he wants what they want to try to get done.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going. I mean, just his track record is he doesn't want to have that level of prescription. I don't think, but don't know.
The Mirror, I think the Mirror wrote an article on that very recently. If it does pass, one of the things they highlighted in that article was that, in commercial zones, that you can convert, a developer can convert, a building into residential, without having to go through planning and zoning.
Well, I mean, that's kind of 830G. And I think that's the governor's priority housing zones. Well, that's minimum densities. Towns and cities would have easier pathways to 830G
Then they
moratoriums.
be part and parcel.
And it's not that it won't go through planning and zoning. But they do not have to, I believe, they don't have to go to planning and zoning to get it rezoned. If they have a residential purpose for it, then they would go through the normal P and Z residential review process. Right. And
the
then
process is made much easier,
Yeah.
and so it's what's called as of right, which means we still can get a site plan and review it.
Mm.
But really, there's very little likelihood that there would be something there to deny. So for example, take a look at, just think about a mattress factory building.
Mhm.
Let's just say that they went out of business. And somebody wanted to convert that to.
Well, it's sold. CFC bought it.
CFP bought it, yeah, for
who
extension.
did?
CFP.
They did.
Mhm.
Can be parking.
I
And I
know.
don't know what they're gonna do. I've been inside that building a couple weeks ago because we're looking for a building for our church. But I mean, that might fall under the commercial conversion thing here.
Yeah, that would fall under that.
I mean, I only cringe because if they strictly just use it for parking, that's.
Well, and I think
fine,
they're gonna
but-
put other fields eventually or something
I
on
know,
part of the
it's
property.
prime commercial
I
real
know.
estate.
I know,
Who bought it?
CFC, and I
So-
forget,
The soccer club.
I heard how much it went for, and I mean, it was maybe a couple million. It was crazy.
It was.
I thought they were whining they didn't have any
Okay.
money, but lights up.
Well,
Yeah. Well. That'll be a shame. If they want to do development up there, that could be great. But if they strictly just want it for parking, it's
I
just
think
like.
it's good parking in other fields, adding in other fields.
Okay.
It's too bad.
I mean, it's a big open building. It would be, I could see that a lot easier than just, unless you're gonna raise the police barracks, the old one, redo it. But I could see the CFC building just from being in it. I mean, you could make 4 units, 6 units easily.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking even
It's
But-
one floor.
If that's an area, because planning and zoning, we've been having ongoing discussions about a village center. And I don't want to say there's a clean consensus, but everybody seems to keep migrating back to the airport area would be the most logical. And if that's the case, then you got a prime piece of real estate. Be across from the plaza that could be developable.
Right.
So. Okay, so that catches you up. Aaron, do you want to make any other comments about some of these opportunities, or does it make sense?
No, I think taking a look at the map and seeing what we can get from that is good. I think talking to Ben is great. In the meantime, before next meeting, I'll talk to a couple of developers and see what their schedules look like, so that's a good start.
Right,
Did you have a quorum to vote on the minutes, or you still
Yes,
need
we
to do that? Okay,
we just voted for you, but no.
okay, you're good.
No, we did.
I'd like to
That's
ask
the three
one
of us.
question, if I could, about developers. I've tried to do a little bit of a dive, I'm not real skilled at it. To try and find towns that have made a relationship with the developer for affordable housing that don't have water and don't have sewer.
But that's where Leslie comes in, because I think she has that
Okay.
experience.
Yeah. if I
Whether
can't
it's
find it,
direct or she's been working with groups that went out and did that.
Good, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lena, might it make sense for you to kind of walk us through what we have here?
I had a whole list of it, but it looks like they identify pretty well all the locations by color coding them. Color coding ones. What's in what here? The font is large enough for me to read. So. Properties that are owned by the town are the yellow properties. Which are several little tiny ones around this area. Then the land trust, the green ones. As you can see in the library association, which is the library over here. Historical Society right next to it, technically down the road. The fire department is a town property, but it's exclusive for the town department. It's the fire department over there,
Well, yeah, that's
you know.
the station.
That's high payment, and then we have the other one. It's not identified here, is it?
Is it because it's part of the airport?
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
will be. I think this is larger one section.
You looking at the fire stations right up here?
Yeah, I think this is fire
That's
station.
Peck Road.
This is Peck Road,
It's gotta be down here. It's gotta be on the
Litchfield.
airport.
Oh,
right
yeah.
here. This is the area.
When-
So they don't identify that one, which I'm
How come they
surprised.
didn't mark it?
And you know why? I think it's because sometimes in the GIS, when there's multi-use of the property, they identify as a multi-use and they don't specify, okay. So the airport DPW and airport DPW are here together. So that's probably why, and it's also an open space, so it's not identified.
So
yet.
can we get them to correct?
Well,
that?
I'm glad I asked with the corrections, because one of the things that I really wanted to have on this map was all the vacant parcels of land.
Mhm.
And I don't see that here, unless I'm missing something. But I mean, that's really, really important.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we need to know.
So this is this is supposed to be the Bethany Fire Department.
So the other interesting thing is, isn't that the parcel with the state police
Yeah,
barracks?
Yeah,
State of Connecticut.
But it's not great.
it's gray,
Yeah, it
but
is.
it's
So
not,
that's
It's
current
gray.
state police, but I
but
think,
this is the
No,
other one
that's
next to
actually the whole
it.
thing now. That's it.
Yeah, this is the
so
gray one.
maybe they know something we don't, which is, well,
No, it's not.
No, it's
It's
not.
not
I
showing.
don't
It's
think,
not right on the corner of Pleasant Drive, is it?
yeah.
No.
I think there's one lot between them.
Oh, no, you're right, okay.
so this is the whole entire.
But that should,
Yeah,
Yeah,
George thing. Yeah.
okay, yeah, so it is,
yeah, one of Billy's.
and that's interesting. They own something back here. Is that a parking lot back there? or-
It's vacant.
And the DEP over here.
This is where the barracks is, the old building. The
So it's the
building
same
behind
lot,
it,
right here.
and there's this
So it's actually,
long
it's the
flag
perfect.
lot.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
It is the same plugin.
So it's vacant unused land or,
At this point, yeah. why it's in that odd shape, I really don't know. It may have been a completely different shape. And then when these people built, maybe they were able to purchase some of it or something. I just am not sure about the history there. But I think one thing on this map that would, to me, would be more helpful for them to show all the vacant land.
Yeah,
And I thought that's what we'd asked them to do.
Yeah.
They didn't.
or, mark them so that over a certain
Yeah.
size or.
But if that was the case, RWA would then show up, right?
Well, again, that should be maybe a category. I think RWA should be a
Should be a
category.
category.
Yeah, so we can tell clearly what that is.
Because
but
they
I
will
think-
also have easements and things that apply to the RWA.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't show.
This is RWA.
We talked
Yeah.
about, I mean, Yale owns a good deal of property as well.
This,
Yeah,
right, yeah,
Yes, they do.
they sold by me,
Yeah, right.
so they
sold
may not own,
right by Mars Road.
they may, and they sold the conservatory too.
That's what I was gonna ask
Observatory.
about.
The hill.
Sorry,
They
long
still
day,
own that?
observatory, no, they sold the observatory and sold the property on Old Amity,
Okay.
Colonel Mustard with the candlestick.
Yeah.
Conservatory.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So then is the observatory privately owned?
Yes.
By somebody, like this, an individual person?
So we need RWA.
Do we know what this is?
RWA.
That state of
It's a
Connecticut.
state.
Yeah, no,
That
but
in the-
there's a
Under the
strip
Oh.
that,
park.
that
1041.
the
That's
town
not-
apparently owns.
RWA.
That's what.
Where's it? Albers is along there, but it's this Albers,
That's over here. And then we have
I mean, this is all of the,
that one is like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I'll have
Land
to pull
trust.
up the GIS.
oh, is that, it goes up to Beacon Cap,
what's that?
that part of the Naugatuck State Forest? Where it goes up to Beacon Cap, is that,
It might be. I think that is the Naugatuck line.
right,
Yeah.
I think
so
so.
I think that's might be what that,
So literally the town owns the top part of it? Is that like, what is that?
What is the map number on there?
It's totally.
1040, 104/4.
104.
/1.
Oh, /1 is the little yellow one, yeah.
It's 104/1.
Yeah.
I just think even the title is probably not right, Lena. I think that exempt land. is-
Bethany Tunnel, 330 Beacon Road,
What is it though?
330 Beacon Road.
Right, but, yeah, that's it, but what is it?
Good question, because I've never seen it before.
Did they send like a computer, like
Connecticut State.
an electronic copy of this to anyone to like view first before they just?
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure that they would be able to adjust it, no matter what. I consider this a draft.
Connecticut State.
But again, it doesn't show what we asked for, as far as I can tell.
What it is.
But is this going to be a digital file that we can manipulate?
Well, at some point, yeah. I mean, I'm
Not
sure,
not a PDF,
Well, it's
but we could go in.
well, they have the rights to do that. We may not have the rights to manipulate it,
Okay.
but we certainly can talk to them about that. But again, I think that there's probably a bunch of other lots that should be added to this
Yeah.
too, so.
It looks like it.
Mm.
Looks like we have missing information in general, even though the list was provided in general to
Mhm.
them.
It's a big parcel.
And you were looking for the vacant
Vacant
ones.
parcels, yeah.
And do you know what it is that the town owns off of Russell?
That's Carrington, isn't it?
No.
No, sorry, that's Bethany, so.
So it starts over in Russell and works all the way over almost to,
They bought a little piece, but I didn't think it was that big, right, Lena?
Yeah, no.
Atwater wraps around that.
So I wanted, yeah, I wanted is different. No, that's actually a private one. And they still are under the cleanup situation.
when the developer for Bethany Farms, did they put aside land that the town owned or that the land trust would get? Because a lot of this might be
For Atwater, you're speaking of
undeveloped.
Atwater?
Mhm.
You're speaking of Atwater, I actually recently,
Well, you got Atwater back here,
More for
so
like Bethany Farms.
Bethany Farms.
Bethany Farms is all in through over here.
No,
And that, yeah, that area.
Open any farms road, is that?
Yeah, but it actually goes down
It-
through farm, I
mhm,
mean, it's all
The whole
down
area.
Okay.
to
to
wherever
Briar,
Russell Road is.
Briar,
to Round Hill.
Round Hill, I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Round
I
Hill,
think this is probably Briar.
yeah. Anyway, I mean, that's interesting in terms of, so when you first sent this out, Lena, and I was looking at a smaller
Mhm.
version, one thing question that occurred to me is it possible for the town to consider a land swap with a land trust? So hypothetically, we own all of this acreage here that it really isn't developable, but it's very pretty. Be able to give that to land trust in return for, and I'm making up something, but parcel like that.
Land trust has their own lawyer and their own legal way of approaching it.
And it's gonna depend on how the.
How the
deeds-
land was
Yeah.
given to them.
Yeah.
Exactly, and if it had any permanent restrictions or not.
Yeah.
And Linda's, she's good, you know, very good with regard to that
Yeah.
stuff with their attorney, so.
And all, trying, it's there.
But I'm just disappointed that it doesn't show all the other vacant parcels to give us a better idea of what's around there, so.
I don't see why
Well,
they wouldn't
but
stick with
to
you.
Lauren's point, if RWA owns about a third of the town
Mhm.
and it's undeveloped land, I mean, for the most part, there's no housing or development on it. I mean, there's like.
There's the one on,
If that was
Down the road, but
highlighted here,
they-
then you'd have a better idea.
they
Yeah.
sold that too.
Okay,
I think that was one of the $1 deal things,
Like that house there on
Mhm.
Downs, you mean? Like that white one that they're
right?
selling?
Used to be
Yeah,
water company.
yeah.
and what about the one that was on Sperry? Going up to where the gate goes in through,
That's Woodbridge.
that's right, that is Woodbridge.
That's.
They did a beautiful job with that farm.
Oh, did they?
Mm.
I haven't been down there.
I think we
Probably
just,
should go.
we just annex it then, right?
Yeah,
There, yeah.
well, if they hadn't paved Morris Road, we were gonna say we should take it over, but they finally paved it.
Um, okay. And it's interesting, town owns something, I live off of. Route
That's
6.
the middle school, isn't it?
No,
No,
this is coming up from Amity Road.
this is the middle school, I think, right there.
Oh,
So this is
right.
wetland, it's uninhabitable
Mm,
wetland. You know, why the town owns that, if that was given to the town?
was probably. We'll have to look into that one. But this are what, this is like the Atwater property over here in connection with that. It's still. Actually, no,
They still cleaning that up.
yeah, it's still in our GDP, but actually the closer one over here is the one that is more in question. The other ones seem to be okay.
Anyone have been using GIS to look for land in Berkshire County? I've started up again. I did this about a year and a half ago. My son got cold feet about doing it, and now he's back with a vengeance. So I'm looking again. But it identified, one of the things it identified, which was a great help to me, was wetlands.
Okay,
That was one thing I could see on their different.
well, you
Levels.
probably have a wetlands.
It
Map,
shows
right.
that,
Oh,
glass maps and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually right there.
Where's the
This?
property that never came, it was a shooting range and then it was.
That's
Yeah,
Atwater.
that's the only, that's the.
It's somewhere back here.
That's the one.
Probably,
So I don't know if the town owns it or if it's,
It was still private last time I looked into it, and that they were supposed to be cleaning it up. But I don't know whatever happened.
Oh,
The zoning section is different. But then the next time I'm looking at by zoning sections. It's a little different. That's the island over there. I don't know.
But this is all dedicated open space land?
It looks like it, yeah. Mhm. And then they have the little box in there, looks like shaded. Yeah, do that. That's what we have, and this map was from 2019. This was.
Who would we be talking to would be Carol, the land trust to find out?
I have their numbers. There's two individuals and I have it right now.
Well, I'm just wondering, who would we have a discussion about to find out if there's any unencumbered land that land trust has?
They are pretty flexible. There was one property by, the Clay Road, I believe, or one of these areas, and, it was owned by the land trust, and they actually ended up selling it to one of the property owners that wants one of the properties, so she became, so I can say that they will be pretty flexible if you were to.
So
consider
whoever
that one
was the
together.
president of the land trust, I would start there.
What's that?
Whoever was the president of the land trust, I would start there.
I think that's Carol
That's Carol.
Limbies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got two former P and Z people.
Mhm.
who are-
And Bob.
It will be Carol Lambias or Chuck Oman.
Oh, yeah,
Chuck Oman
Chuck lives on down,
is, he's,
down the,
yeah,
end towards him.
either one of
Oh.
them, they. Chuck is usually, the lawyer, both of them are lawyers.
Carol's
lawyer.
not a lawyer.
No, I thought she
I don't think
was.
so.
Oh.
You may be thinking Linda Francois.
Ah,
Yeah,
Linda Francois,
she's
Linda
lawyer.
Yeah, she was the
Francois.
land trust attorney.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Francois.
Okay, so on this, you're gonna talk to them about number one, we've gotta fix this
Yes.
problem. Number two, whether or not it's possible to show Hiram as all vacant land.
Mhm.
And within that, can they designate which is RWA versus privately held?
Mhm.
But vacant land, like, do you consider it, if somebody has 30 acres, but they have a house on it, is that vacant land, or is that? Yeah, so that opens up.
How would we
Yeah,
define it?
good question. It's not vacant, so it probably wouldn't show up.
Right.
We're just gonna have to know which parcels those are and find out if those people would be willing to divide it at some point in time.
That could be another layer of
Could be.
properties with a house that are over this many acres.
Yeah, I have to tell you,
Separate.
for this map with as little information as there is here for $1,000, that's a lot. I'm surprised. So
Mhm.
I expected to show a lot more information, so hopefully we can push them a little bit from that.
Mhm.
Like, what is this?
Should we hold the invoice
RWA?
until we have that discussion?
I wouldn't send
RWA.
it back yet. I would just hang on to it
Hmm.
and just till we can get that clarified anyway,
Yeah.
okay? Known Brian for a long, long time. I'll lean on him a little bit if it becomes a problem.
Well, I mean, I just go back to the fact that there's not a lot of value to the land trust to have all these fragmented little pieces all over the place. That, I mean, I don't know, how many acres is that? Maybe 5 or 6 acres. So you're not gonna have a very meaningful trail system, or that's gonna get used a lot, probably. I don't know. Same thing over here, the Carrington. So I don't know. What would that be? Okay.
I think this, I remember being on this side though, because there is a trail over here. That's the dirt part.
This is up in the dirt
Yeah.
part. This is right across where Tuttle comes
comes
in.
Yeah, it's right at the intersection of the dirt part of Carrington and Tuttle.
And
Right.
this is all RWA here, right?
That's Valley, yes.
3.25 acres,
Yeah,
someone,
between Hilldale and Valley, I think they pretty much own all of it.
this is 3.25 acres, that one.
I like grew up right around there, so I know exactly where.
Oh,
That's right.
All right. Anyway, I mean, I don't know if there's value or not, but if I'm land trust and I've got these little bits and pieces all over the place and I can consolidate to get more land that is adjacent to areas I don't control.
Your focus has been creating more trails, really, around. areas,
Connecting.
Connecting
with it, right?
trail, yeah.
Mm.
What is this?
Cemetery, isn't it?
Ah, yep, okay. the Methodist cemetery. Just trying to figure out.
That whole parcel, you think?
I don't, well, it's not showing that it goes all the way back, so it's possible that there's like a house or something there that butts up against the back of the
I think there is.
cemetery.
Okay.
I know this property because my neighbor, her husband, she's the one that fought for her and her husband fought to create the park, Rock Ridge Park.
Okay.
And this is, there's a bench there dedicating, making a dedication to her husband.
Oh,
Old Methodist
Steve.
Cemetery.
Yes.
Where's the cemetery?
Collins,
And where's the
Barry Collins.
The
Yeah,
recreation area with, pond, you know,
that's Park.
It's Veterans Park.
That would be all. of-
Now here,
No, it's over there.
But are you talking about Peck or this is,
42.
where that,
that's Memorial Park up here?
okay.
no,
No,
it's
that
it's here,
green, that green area.
it's here, right there.
That's land trust.
That's.
This is town, that's land trust. So
Oh, you're
I'm assuming this is Memorial Park and everything.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Where's the
But
entrance?
I thought land trust butted
can
up
run.
against this, the whole Mendel's Folly and
Mhm.
I don't know.
And I do think that Yale used to own, didn't Yale own the bog?
I thought so.
So they may
But-
still own, and that's not marked.
Interesting. I was wondering,
That is
did they talk to the town before?
Didn't
they
you
sold it?
back for
I'm sorry,
$1,000?
Wondered if Yale
With
talked to
all
the
the
town
maps.
before they sold it. Or not.
I don't know. They were probably ticked off at us because we really bugged them about,
Oh,
you were still on. They wanted to bring. it's
Dirty
where-
Phil from New Haven,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
dump it in Bethany. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Fun times,
Yeah,
Alex.
don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing to see here.
Yeah.
What's wrong with them? Well, a lot, yeah.
What's
That
that?
was,
So what's wrong with them?
Well, I mean,
that was.
we were asking reasonable questions and we were getting very obtuse stances.
Yeah, of course you were, yeah.
Mm.
So, better that they just decided to move on.
So I think this would be more helpful if we get them to tweak
Yeah.
quite a bit.
It's a lot of
Watershed
tweaking, a lot of
Association.
information there.
I mean,
Yeah,
water authority
properties.
probably better.
Your properties is 103 Beacon Road, 381 Fairwood Road, 59
Oh,
Toledo
Yale
Drive,
Polo, right.
and 79 Rainbow. Those are Yale properties.
381
Only four.
Fairwood.
All I did is just Yale and everything.
Oh, Rainbow's that polo field.
Right.
Yeah. So 59 Toledo Drive.
Oh, that's Guy Yale. That's his last name.
Let's say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not Eli.
Not Eli.
No,
No.
yeah,
No.
381 Fairwood Road. And.
That is Yale University. Oh, 381 Fairwood. I wonder if that's the
Yeah.
bog. No.
And 103
Yeah.
Beacon Road. So 103 Beacon Road would be. Area.
The bog, I think, is off Lebanon.
And it doesn't show anything from Lebanon.
No.
No. Doesn't show anything on Lebanon.
Can you pull up property owners on Lebanon Road?
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
see.
it's interesting. You've got this whole parcel here that's just outside of Bethany Farms, adjacent to two land trust parcels, and it's not designated as anything.
I'm just
gonna have to-
You'd like to see on,
Well, and that's a pretty good sized piece of property. This is 30,
All right.
Yeah.
So now,
33 acres, I think. So this is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
40 or 50. Yeah.
the water company and, private land.
Water authority and vacant land.
Land.
Yeah.
This, I think, could be the land that John Ciolo
That's-
owned,
Pine Brook.
because
That could be, that could still be.
his house was right there. That's the one that burned down.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he bought up a bunch of land in here.
That's it. Why? For fun?
So there's
Lebanon.
nothing listed for Yale there.
no.
Just because? Because he could?
What was it?
Why
John,
did he buy it up?
John bought, he had so many different
Always had a
pieces of
bunch of different
property
properties.
and
He had a farm in New Hartford,
Oh, okay.
farm in Hatfield.
his kids have it all now in the state and.
That
My
property
wife
was sold.
talks to Shauna, Jenna, but. What's going on?
I know Kyle, he's in the log house.
But I mean, this is a perfect example. Hypothetically, if this was owned by them, they got it. You know, whether or not that becomes something that,
The one on Pine Brook Crossing is already sold.
That's Pine Brook.
that's,
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
The property
Right.
at Pine Brook
This is
Crossing was
Pine Brook,
sold
I can see it.
is owned by somebody already.
The what?
The one by Pine Brook Crossing was sold. This
The
one
big
by-
piece?
Yeah, the where he had the house over
Mhm.
there. Yeah, that's sold. Sorry, it hasn't, it's on there.
it's weird, they've got these marked as different lots here, but I know. We're good friends with Nancy Bradley. She owns this. This is a big pasture area.
Mhm.
So I don't know if technically it's a separate lot.
Depends if it is, has been split or not.
So
Okay.
do you have enough to go back to them?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
they need more specifications here.
I know we've gone a
She-
little bit long, but if everybody's cool, you know.
You wanna take one with you?
I'm gonna take one, yeah, and then I can get back to you with a list of what we're looking for. Just to
It's not gonna be-
make
it's
sure.
not because I wanna, I accept things. And I'm gonna run with the assessor, I think it's gonna be 25, why. The list, one certain areas are missing as well, because it came from the, report from the assessor. From property, so. I wonder. It's much.
Really, the interesting thing I heard tonight was the water company occasionally has land that's or made of it.
Well, they sold the ones with houses. So they used to rent the houses and then they didn't want the landlords, so they sold the ones that have houses on them.
But do you know, had the town ever had any from plans or WA and which parcels they may consider to be disposable and not disposable?
I don't know.
I
I
mean,
mean,
just to engage in a
Right.
discussion to say, hey, listen, if you're thinking,
right.
talk to us first. And I'm not saying we'll buy it, but if we have an eye on a developer or two and we like them,
Mhm.
then maybe we could facilitate
Right.
that. Okay. Um. Hiram, anything else?
No, I think that's good. I think that if you can, some of that stuff gets you some more solid information. And I'll talk to a couple of developers before, next week probably. And find out whether they'd be interested in coming down. I think that's a good start. Good.
Do you want them to be, to come for the next meeting, at the next meeting to have it
I
down?
don't know, yet. Let's see what they say.
I think it'd probably be better. We're gonna have one more meeting. August will be off. I think it'd be better to.
I'll be away for the July meeting. I just realized that.
Is that?
I'll be away for the July meeting.
Okay.
I'm sitting because I'm getting knee replacement on July
I
second.
mean,
Try
If
to
we need to move it and,
come in on there, come in
We
on.
could do an August meeting now.
yeah, I mean, but we can also move it. I just need to know, cause that
Need to
was gonna
post it.
be right around Fourth, is it July second?
It is.
Mhm.
July.
Mhm.
If we wanted to move it up a week or move it back a week, we can do that. I just have to give town clerk notice. And
That
it
guy.
would have to be designated as
Okay.
a special meeting, I think.
Cranky, huh?
He's less cranky than his wife.
I
I don't know. You can, but you can always do an August meeting too if you wanted to.
Yeah.
yeah.
If folks are available.
But I just. I do that. We'll kind of go to the P and Z. Here, so. All right, any other, Lauren, any other comments, questions?
Don't ask enough tonight.
Good questions.
Good. Good?
Yeah.
Kim? All right. Have a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
in favor? Aye,
Right.
we are adjourned.
Now, the next meeting in July is not, it's not on the first, I don't think it's.
It's on the second, I think.